Yeah.
That's too much.
Yeah. This mic is super good. I can feel it really clear. Hello, wonderful people. Rearrange the setup here, have a better mic as well. Lovely gentleman in the background is Ricky. He's also a very important part of N3DM. It's not good to see him too. He won't be able to answer any questions about ZBrush though, but he's great. Alright, so we'll be starting in about 4 minutes here. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free. If they're super long, I won't be able to do a whole lot for you, but I will do what I can and I'll answer after the lesson. Alright. Oh sweet, I'm glad it sounds a lot better. Yay. Yeah, it was not great. It was through my laptop audio, which was doing its best, but you know. And the bitrate should be dialed in now. Apparently just cranking it up to like the max does not fix it. YouTube wants like a special number. We found that 3000 worked pretty well. We'll see. I'm excited for this one. It's not just UI stuff, because UI stuff is super boring. I have the timing on the lesson plan a little tighter together too, since it went pretty quick last time. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll actually be using this lesson to start the ASMR Bard. ASMR, ASMR. I've heard it pronounced both. If you know how it's pronounced, let me know. Let me grab my water first.
I got you.
Oh, sweet. Woohoo. Ricky's the best. ASMR Bard. That would be funny, but no. I actually watched a video this week, like I want ASMR because I heard about it, but I didn't know what it was. Not for me. Oh my god. I hate like mouth sounds or like chewing in general, so not for me. Before I forget, I'm going to shrink my face. I like that in the beginning because I don't know, it's like, oh look, I'm here, I'm so personable. But for an actual lesson, you don't need to see me like half the screen. There we go. Mini me. There's nothing important in this corner of the screen, or I'm pretty confident anyway. Generally, I have nothing in that corner of the screen on my custom UI too, because I don't like to move my arm all the way across my tablet, just being honest. Yeah, so Anastasia mentions that ZBrush Core has trouble importing brushes from other places. So some things are designed for ZBrush, and not just ZBrush, but the most recent version of ZBrush. So like before I updated mine to 2019, I had some brushes I found I wanted to use, and it was not happy about it. That is a downside with ZBrush Core, and I feel kind of bad because I forgot to mention that. But on the plus side, it shouldn't affect you too much. I didn't use a lot of custom brushes in the beginning. I really just used Clay Buildup, Damp Standard, and Smooth. And you guys see like through these lessons when I sculpt more, that's pretty much all I use. The live stream of the Akimara, or Bat Humanoid because copyright. Anyway, that's pretty much the only thing I use. There's like 3 brushes for the whole thing. I know it's still a bummer though, but it's another reason why if eventually you like this, buy ZBrush. It's amazing. Oh, it's 6. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. All right, so this lesson is going to be all about how to start a character in the first place. So this process pretty much applies for humanoids, humans, or creatures. This is a little more human-centric because of the base mesh. Make sure that's everything we should talk about. Yes, I don't want to give you guys too much information like a fire hose. Anyway, so the very first step that you do is an import base mesh. You can sculpt from scratch, but I'm not even that great with human anatomy, so sculpting an arm and a head and a face, all from just like a sphere, that's what I mean by scratch, just like a primitive shape, is really, really tough. You'll probably end up feeling really discouraged, so I don't recommend doing it. It's great to practice, so do a little bit of both. But if you actually want to make something and print something, start with a base mesh. If I didn't explain what a base mesh is, it's just something to sculpt on. So if somebody's sculpting in person, I'm actually starting for the ASMR, I just like ASMR, now that honestly point that out. Anyway, Bard, it's choosing me a female, so I'm going to import a female base mesh. You can find this on Thingiverse, CG Trader, Turbo Squid. Some of them are really expensive. They'll be like $100 for one model because they're like medically accurate. You don't really need that. I got mine for free, and the nose is slightly crooked. Drives me nuts, but I usually import my own heads anyway, so it's fine. All right, there's two different ways to do it because there's two different file types. There's OBJs and STLs. So I'll show you how to do it for OBJ because that's what I have available to you guys in ZBrush files. So what you'll do is you'll go to Tool, Import, and then wherever your file is, it's probably going to be in Downloads if you recently downloaded it. For me, I have a Dropbox folder because I have lots of files. So this is what you guys would see. You have access to ZBrush files, and then go to Brushes and Base Meshes, and then finally, Realistic White Female Low Poly. You can import the eyes and the teeth. I usually don't need to. Just the body's what I need. Okay, so Lightbox, you can make this go away by clicking Lightbox. I'm actually going to open up a, that was super loud in my head. I can't tell if that sound was out loud. Anyway, saying no, because I like to start with a sphere. It just kind of resets the canvas and it's a good size. Forgot to mention that. All right, so back to Tool, Import, and there we go. There we are. So this is a great starting point. It's real simple. Low poly is fantastic because the fewer polygons there are, the easier it is to manipulate it. When it's really dense, say if I sculpt a line onto it and try and smooth it out, it'll take forever because it's smoothing out like 200,000 polygons. Here, it's smoothing out like 2,000, so it's a lot faster. I'm gonna change the matte cap right away because I just hate this default silver. There we go, weird fleshy tone. All right. So that's how you import a base mesh as an OBJ. If it's an STL, you go to Z plugin, 3D Print Hub, import STL file. When you click on that, it'll do the exact same thing. This obviously won't work even though it shows up because they're OBJs and STLs. And I'm saying this is how to import a base mesh. This is how to import anything you want. So now you know. All right, I believe that was the first steps. Awesome, that took just about as long as I was hoping for it to. And now let's do a light overview of like what Dynamesh is because I talked about poly count. All right, so this is really low poly, and if you're like, what is poly? It's driving me nuts. Polygon. So I think the actual poly mean many and gon mean shape. So just a shape with more than 3 sides, like the technical definition of it. I learned that in geometry in like 8th grade, and it really stuck with me. Anyway, all right. So if I zoom in here, you will see all these shapes. If I hold Shift, then F, it turns on the wireframe. So that way it outlines every single polygon you see. If I go to Geometry, which is under the Tool palette, the Tool palette will always, it's always going to have docked on the right side. You'll be using it constantly. That's why in this standard configuration of the UI, it's already there. So in my custom UI, it's also there. All right, Geometry, and go to Divide, and then you see it starts to smooth out, which is great. But for me, I use Dynamesh a lot. So Dynamesh, Dynamic Mesh. What that does is it looks at your mesh and sees where there's more detail or essentially creases or built up. That's how they see it. They don't know what detail is. The program just looking at manipulations of polygons. And it'll keep the polygons there and smooth out and remove them where they don't need it. But better said, wherever there's more detail, more polygons, less detail, less polygons. So it's great to really optimize your mesh and have only the amount of polygons you need. Because if you have like 2 million, it's going to bog down your program. You probably don't need that. And as I mentioned before, it's hard to manipulate and smooth out, which can be kind of annoying. So I did the subdivision levels. You're like, well, what's the point of them? Because it's really awesome to be able to sculpt on different levels of subdivision. So for instance, this is somewhat subdivided at 79,000 points. I'll do another one. It's now 318,000. So if I go, I have a standard brush right now. If I just start sculpting some blobs on her collarbone here, it was really easy to do, looks good enough. If I reduce that, now you can barely see those blobs there. And the reason this is kind of nice is because if I wanted to go through, this is so weird because it's not my own UI. Where is the move brush? There it is. It's easier to manipulate. Now if I go up to really high detail, it'll keep the manipulation there. When I do this, The problem is, if you can look like right here, for example, it's kind of creasing more than it shows here. It's pretty much completely smooth because there's not a whole lot going on. So that's just kind of the overview. I like to have subdivision levels when I pose, for example, because there's less deformations. But moving away from that, let's talk about Dynamesh, because that is what you're going to be using more often. And since it does the whole topology, it redoes it by organizing the polygons, it'll make it watertight. It closes up holes, which for 3D printing is necessary. So I always use Dynamesh or Boolean operations, but that's a little more advanced, Dynamesh to prepare for 3D printing. All right, so if I go to Dynamesh, it's already orange, which it shouldn't be because ZBrush gets confused. It thinks like it's using Dynamesh, but it's not. So if it's orange already for you, and you have subdivision levels, it's not working. Don't trust it. So click on it. Now it's gray. Click it on again, and it'll give you this error saying you have multiple subdivision levels since I did that. So if you did that, that's okay. Just say yes, or say you don't want to freeze them, so say no, my bad. And it'll just Dynamesh, no problem. Usually that won't happen unless you click subdivision. So as you can tell, it ruined all of the detail. And the reason for that is the resolution is really low. It's only 128. So I can do Control Z. I'm going to delete subdivision levels because I don't even want them right now. I'm going to increase it to about, I don't know, let's do 800. All right, so this looks a lot better, and my subdivision levels are not, sorry, my poly count is 339,000. Previously, it was also 318,000 because of the subdivision levels. So I did a good job pretty much keeping everything the way I wanted it to. All right, now I'm going to do one more thing to kind of explain how Dynamesh works. I'm going to turn on the wireframe again. So this was the after. So it's really, really dense. You can't even see all these little polygons and stuff. If I go back, it looks a lot different. And the reason for this is because the topology looks smoother because it's grouped better around the face and stuff because this base mesh had really good loops around the eyes. So it divided it, it just divided the loops around the eyes. If I go all the way back, you'll see that it's super sparse and now really dense because that's how Dynamesh works. So Dynamesh is not for making great topology. Topology is the way the polygons are organized. This is important for doing stuff like game assets because you want as few polygons as possible, and then you put a texture on for detail. You don't really sculpt on details. You put like painted on colors of detail. Anyway, that's a whole different thing that I'm not very good at, and we're here to sculpt minis. All right, fantastic. So that's a pretty good light overview. In the Q&A section after this, if you want to know more about Dynamesh, like what these buttons mean, I can talk about that too, but I don't want to get too bogged down in one area, so we'll move on. All right, so all about brushes, what to even start with, because when you click on B, you get the brush palette, and you're just overwhelmed with all these brushes. So mine's going to look a little different from you guys, because I have some custom brushes in here, but the vast majority are going to be the same. All right, so when I'm dealing with brushes, there's really 5 that I use constantly. One of my favorites is Clay Buildup. If you are a note taker kind of person, this is a good place to take notes, or just write down the time of the video. All right, so Clay Buildup does exactly what it sounds like, and it builds up clay. So whenever you're doing brushes, you got 2 different functions. So what you can do is you can just normally just like stroke on your tablet, and that's the normal function of the brush, or you can hold Alt, and it'll do the opposite. So by that, the inverse. I'm just kind of sculpting a top on. This is not how I do clothes, but just so I guess we need to look at. So that's the Clay Buildup brush. It's great for adding and subtracting forms, and you'll notice it has this really like messy texture on it. You don't have to have that texture on it. That texture is actually due to an alpha, and I'll do a quick explanation what an alpha is. So to me, like just be normally thinking, not in like art world, but normal world, texture is what you touch. Like for instance, like skin texture, I have my nail, this kind of like microfiber cloth, right? Well, in like ZBrush land, texture is not that at all. It's not 3D shapes or touch, it's a projection of an image. So if I wanted to put cheetah prints on this, I would import a texture and then paint the colors on there. That's why my texture is off right now, because I don't want to color this, I want to change the form. And so texture, the way I think of it, that's what an alpha is in ZBrush. So let me explain that. So the alpha is just this little cube here, right? That's what I have active right now. So you can make these in Photoshop actually. And the way that ZBrush is processing this is the lighter areas are raising material, and the darker areas are pushing down material. Since this has, it went away. Since this has that rim around the cube, so it's saying to bring up a square shape and then push down the edges, which is what you're seeing here. So if I just tap lightly, you can see those really clear squares. So by converse, if I take my alpha, so I'm holding spacebar for this little preview, clicking on that, and then alpha off, I won't have those squares. It's kind of just like a little circle by default, because that's what, you know, a brush looks like. Just giving you an explanation of what that meant. So yeah, clay buildup is one of my favorites for building up form. I'm going to kind of reset this model here and talk about my next favorite brush, which would be Dam Standard. I'm not sure what that means and why it's called, this is not what I want to happen. I clicked the wrong thing. What Dam Standard means, honestly, it's a crease brush. So that's what it looks like. That's just saying my undo history is getting confused. I undid a bunch and now it's going to delete all of it, and that's fine. All right. So this is what Dam Standard does. So when I do the inverse, what I did right there, you can bring up really nice creases, which I love because I can use this for the edges of clothes, for defining the lips, eyelids especially, hairlines, doing hair in general. It's very useful. So I actually used this for my Cyberpunk Angel when I was kind of like blocking out her armor. So there we go. She has another weird top. Lots of weird tops. Again, this is not how I do clothes. I'll show you how I do clothes probably in this video, actually. All right. So we've gone over 2 brushes so far. So clay buildup and Dam Standard. And then a super important one as well is smooth. So this is why I mentioned hotkeys are so important, because you can go to your brush palette and find any of the smooth brushes and click on them. But ZBrush will yell at you and be like, use shift. So don't fight it, just use shift. If you can't use both of your hands or have any sort of, I don't know, stiffness or disability, contact me and I can show you guys how you can remap those keys. It's kind of annoying to make it so ZBrush will let you do that without being a pain. All right, so in this case, shift. And it'll smooth out what you have. So a really common problem I have seen in the chat is they say that when they smooth, like nothing happens and takes forever. That's because your poly count is too high. So when I'm sculpting out the base of the model here, I hover around like 500,000 points. Again, that's not like a strict rule. That's just what works for me. If you have anything past 1 million, it's not gonna work great. All right, Kat mentioned why Dam Standard is called that. It has to do with who created the brush, the name of that person. Fantastic, thank you. I had no idea. I was just call it a crease brush. Anyway, Dam Standard is fantastic. So thank you, Damien. Awesome. So yeah, clay buildup, Dam Standard, and then smooth, which are all fantastic brushes. I don't think I'm missing anything as far as main sculpting goes. I really just use those 3. Again, if you watch my most recent live stream of the Akimara, the bat humanoid, that's all I use to detail the face. Pretty much, that's it. I don't use anything else. Now, since also is really helpful for breaking out form is the move brush. This isn't so much like, I mean, it is sculpting, but I consider sculpting like when you're like adding and subtracting material. Like the move brush is just like, you know what I mean? It's pulling on your model to get your base shape. So I don't do this a whole lot once I've actually like got the shape of my model down. I would use the move brush. So let me bring her back to a default again. If I want to change her body shape really quickly, I could use the smooth brush and just do this for like days. I don't want to do that. So what I do is I take my move brush and I can pinch in her hips. I can give her broader hips. This is what I did for the female bard, had the loop. I don't know, I thought she'd be friendly, so I wanted her to have like a more maternal figure or stereotypical maternal figure. So I gave her like really broad hips, not that sensitive a waist. That looks uncomfortable. Yeah. So right there, just changing the general shape. I also gave her slightly more narrow shoulders to really emphasize the pear shape I wanted to give her. And again, body shape is so important when it comes to character design because you can tell so much about a character by the shapes of it. For example, you probably won't see a villain with like these bubble shoulder pads and really like smooth curved lines everywhere. It's really sharp and edgy, and that's communicating what the character is like. Same thing goes for modeling. Like I think of that a lot when I'm doing my characters. You don't always have to follow these rules, you know what I mean? But you'd rather not reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? It's easier to go with what people are assuming it's going to look like to communicate your idea. Because I'm not so much focused on like making this really unique breaking barriers character. I want to communicate quickly and efficiently. So if I wanted like a female bard, I want her to be friendly, charismatic, sweet. So I made her a little more plump. And that's pretty much it. That's all I really did. I thought that would be enough. Yeah. Oh, I really emphasized her smile and gave her bigger lips too, so it showed up better on a mini. So yeah, wasn't a great example, but I think you get my point. All right. Kind of looking at this model and thinking of what else would be super helpful as far as brushes go. Because I don't want to overwhelm you guys. I know I have a video on YouTube that says like the main 5 that I use, and I can't think of the other 2 that I really use. It's really Damp Sander, Clay Buildup, Smooth, and Move. I'm sure there's a 5th one in there, but it's just not that important. That's not what I use super frequently. And again, really, these are so many different brushes because Clay Buildup, you can add material and subtract it. You don't need to switch between anything for that. Just hold down Alt and it'll invert your brush, which is super helpful. I'm gonna look at our little class plan here, make sure I am following track. I'm always going through this faster than I anticipate too. All right, there we go. This is a really important point. What to practice. I gave you all this information. You're like, cool, I have a model. Now what do I do? Okay. First, you need to have an idea of what you're going for. So I'm going for the ASMR Bard here. So when I think of whenever like flighted figures or winged, they fly. That's kind of the whole point. So I usually make them thinner than usual, just because having a winged human would be really difficult anyway. I mean, they'd have to be like pretty much hollow or tiny or have ridiculously big wings for it to work. So I don't go too literal on it, but I do try to lean into it a little bit so it makes sense. So I'll actually push this back to the base. There we go. Make sure she still has Dynamesh active though. Don't go back too far. There we go. She's already really slim. That's just how the base mesh I picked. So I'm gonna make her a little bit thinner. I'm gonna bring out her rib cage. That's one of the biggest things I notice when people are modeling women, they forget about. It's like, yes, there are boobs, but there's also a rib cage. So there's 2 bumps. Don't forget this one. If you forget this one, it'll look really emaciated, and it just doesn't, you won't know why it looks weird, but that's why it looks weird. Same with the hips. I don't like to cinch in the waist so much because it's actually really unrealistic. I like to pull the hips out. So I'll get the same general look, but without swishing her organs. All right, so honestly for the ASMR Bard, this is perfect. I don't intend for her to really look much different than the base form here. So let's get into basics of like clothing and stuff. I'll probably reiterate this again in the next lesson, but I want to get this started here too. So first thing I'll do is mask off like a top of sorts, so holding control. And when it's off the model, I'll do a box like this. You can actually go to the brush palette and pick like what shape you'd want that to draw, like a circle. A box is fine for me. There we are. Since she is a bard, I always think them as like really charismatic and not as conservative. I would imagine like a turtleneck on her. Pulling on my headphone. So I'm gonna give her some sort of like a V-neck or an off the shoulder. Especially because she flies, I would really expect for her clothing to be pretty free, loose fitting and comfortable. Not too loose fitting so it like flies away, but you get my point. All right, so that's a general top shape that I'm okay with it. I think I'm gonna lean with this off the shoulder thing. I like shoulders. And then if I was actually using this as my model, I'd probably change the brush shape of it too, because it's not super natural. The teardrop shape is correct, but the way that it's so like, I don't know, some material or fat is what it is, up here isn't realistic and doesn't make sense because it draws away from her collarbones. But for this is totally, totally fine. And you can fix up getting a better base mesh. I should probably get better base meshes. I've been using forever. I just don't really mind. All right. Honest Abe asked if masking is a 5th brush. Probably. Yes. Masking would be the 5th brush. All right. So once an area is masked, in case you're wondering, what does mask even mean? It's selecting those polygons. That's all that's happening. So if I want to mask this area out, that's it. That's a darker area. If I want to invert the mask, hold control and tap. And there you go. Now I have the rest of it. But for this, I want it to be this because I want it to be a shirt. So if I go to Subtool, which is under the tool palette, and go down to Extract, I can make this its own object. It's something that you can't do in like Sculptris or anything like that. That's why I harp on ZBrush, because I use this constantly and for everything I do pretty much. So click on Extract, and it'll give you a preview of what it's going to look like. So I have these weird little blobs up here because my mask isn't perfect. That's fine. It's a little thick for a shirt, but I'm okay with that, and I'll show you why. If you make a shirt too thin, like the mesh too thin, you'll get holes in it. So to prevent that, I go to double. So what double is going to do, it's going to extract away from the body and into the body. So it makes it twice as thick, which for 3D printing purposes is great because you want the mesh to be as watertight as possible. So you'll Dynamesh it all later to make it one mesh, but if it's already overlapping, I noticed Dynamesh does a little bit better and it won't shatter your model or put holes in it. All right, so clicking extract again, it will look the same, but just know that it's twice as thick. So you can change the thickness by adjusting it here. It's 0.02. The numbers are kind of odd. I usually do between 0.01 and 0.02. Just depends on what I'm want to do. For this, the shirt is a little thick, so go to 0.01. There we go. That was a little better. And then accept. You have to accept it. Otherwise, it's just a preview. Just letting you guys know that. So that object is now visible at my subtool palette. And it still stays masked. This can be helpful because it happens to mask pretty much everything but the seams. So if I wanted to, I could click on W to get the, what is this even called? 3D Gizmo. And I can expand it and get like little seams on there. Kind of a little trick. I don't usually do that because it's not super clean topology or edges to do that, but it's good enough. All right, I can smooth those edges out. Holding Control and dragging off of your model will clear the mask. All right, so that's a great start. If you want better and cleaner lines, you would extract 0 thickness. Okay, this is a little more complicated. So 0 thickness, so you can't see anything. Like if you view the mesh from a different angle, it like disappears because there's no thickness. Now, the reason people do that is because they can go into like ZModeler or they can frame the edges and I can put like a seam on it. So if you guys remember the Medusa I did, she had like scales on the top of her dress. That's how I did that. I extracted 0 thickness and then put a frame on there. The reason I'm not showing that right now is because it's so much extra steps and stuff and it's not really fun, it's technical. And I want to get you guys making stuff, not obsessing on like, oh, is the topology perfect, this and that. Doesn't matter. Just here's some material, now sculpt and have fun with it. I think it's the point of these lessons. I will be going over stuff like that, but not in these super early on lessons because it's just not super fun. All right, so that's a really good looking shirt actually. I'm pretty happy with that starting off. This exact same technique can be used to make pants, gloves, really anything. So I will go for some quick pants and run through this one more time just because it looks weird that Shelly has a shirt on. And pants are awesome because they're super quick to do because it's just one box. If you do Control and Alt at the same time, you can remove part of the mask. It didn't work because I lifted up too fast. Control Alt, there you go. Doing the same thing, clicking on Extract. All right, those are some pretty tight pants, but that's okay. I clicked Extract again by accident. Wanted to click Accept. There we go. I'm glad ZBrush didn't crash. All right, so if I hold Shift F, you can see that really clearly. You can also see that ZBrush is recognized as 2 different polygroups. So I have that inner seam and then I have the actual pants in pink. If I click on Solo, you can see that's twice as thick. I should have shown this earlier, but now you can see that the mesh is twice as thick as it needs to be, which can be really, really helpful for not destroying your mesh if it's too thin. That's how you get holes. All right, so this is a general shape. I could do the same thing if I wanted to mask out a belt and extract that, all sorts of things. And then going back to explain what I meant about DAM standard, because I mentioned like what to practice. So base mesh, putting on clothes of some sort, or if you don't want to sculpt people with clothes, you could do it for like armor, which is just clothes pretty much, or you can do it for detailing weapons. You could do like a mural even and like mask out a dragon and extract that dragon like 2D. Do whatever you want. I laugh because I was never super into like fashion or design, and now like that I do this professionally, like I'm really just like a fashion designer because the majority of what I sculpt is clothes, which I don't mind now, but I just thought it was really funny. So DAM standard is fantastic for adding creases to clothing. So I'm just kind of adding some sort of like emblem to the front of her shirt here, just kind of having fun with it. Again, this is not like a super clean way to do the model, but it's fun and it's not getting too technical. I will always dive into that later on in these lessons, but in the very beginning here, I just want you guys to have fun and just get started. When I was learning ZBrush, the tutorials I followed were either way too advanced or they were just like, sculpt a sphere for the 100th time. Like, this is not helping me. So I'm hoping this is a good in-between where you guys can have fun and actually make something you can print. Alright, so weird like butterfly like pattern on her shirt. And in case you're wondering like what I would use clay buildup for, I would use that for muscle definition or cheekbones. So really quickly, I will go to clay buildup. I have a hard time finding it because in my UI, I have all my brushes docked at the bottom. So I talk about my UI a lot. Just really quick, if you wanted to use my UI, I do have it in the ZBrush files. It's a .cfg file, which is a .config. And then you go to Preferences, Config, and then Load UI. And then you tap it, just in case you wanted to. All right. So for my faces, I'm a huge fan of really dramatic cheekbones, and part of the reason for that is because one, I think it's pretty, and two, because it prints really well. You can see better definition on the face. So I'm using Alt and Clay Buildup to kind of take away form. Don't do too much or they'll look like a skull like that, but you get the idea. It looks really like scary and low poly, and that's okay because I'm just manipulating the overall forms. So I'll make her chin a little bit softer, a little more defined jaw. I think her nose is pretty cute by default. As I mentioned, the nose in my base mesh is crooked. I don't know why it's like that. I didn't make this. I took it from CG Trader. Anyway. Now as far as the brow shape, I always like to push it down a little bit, move the corner slightly up for a more whimsical look. And then I usually make the face a little more narrow as well. Again, try not to get too skeletal there. And then I can go to Dam Standard and I can start like defining the eye shape better. And again, it looks super low poly and not great, and that's okay because again, general forms first. And then as I want that to look better though, I'll go to Dynamesh, increase resolution, excuse me, and then Control, dragging a box off will cause it to re-Dynamesh. The fifth brush, Inflate. That's what I forgot to talk about. So Inflate is great because essentially it's like clay buildup, but in spheres. That's the best way to think of it. You don't have to use it, I guess, but it's just like a softer clay buildup is how I think of it. So I'll use that obviously for lips is fantastic. I can do that for outside of her nostrils. You get the general idea. But there we go. She already looks like something. There's kind of a personality coming through there. All right. There's a jet flying overhead. That's the general overview here. I hope it was a little more clear. I'm not sure if I mentioned very clear what to practice, so I'll go over that one more time. But practice importing a base mesh. You can practice by sculpting from scratch, and that's great if you're like really perseverant and I don't know, determined. For me, I'm easily discouraged because I hate learning new things. I like doing well, okay? Learning new things is tough. It's not supposed to be comfortable, you know what I mean? So give yourself a fighting chance if you're anything like me, and start with a base mesh. It's actually going to look like something. You'll be able to 3D print it. And it's so exciting to print the first thing that you sculpted because you're just like, wow, I made all of this. This is all me. You know what I mean? So again, practice importing a base mesh that you like. You can even sculpt a dog or like a lion or something and make it look more whimsical and put in like these etchings in the fur. Just have fun with it. Make something that you like. And then practice masking and extracting areas like that too and making these objects. And again, you can totally extract with 0 thickness, but you have to add thickness later. It's a little more complicated, and I'll get into those techniques later on. Let's see. I do have questions coming in, which is awesome. Let me check through my plan right now because I think we're about time for Q&A. Yeah, so I said 6:35, Q&A begins. It's 6:30, so I'm only beginning 5 minutes early. I'm glad. My last lesson, I was like flying way too fast, I think. Or I wrote the lesson plan too long. All right, first question from Michael. How do you remove a section from clothing subtotal? I think I'm missing a word there. I didn't totally understand. But I think I know what you meant is removing from the subtool palette. I think it probably just auto-corrected on you. But say if I want to remove like her pants, I go to my subtool palette and click on delete. If that was not what you asked, do let me know and just ask again. But yeah, just so you guys know, the Q&A has officially opened. So if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot off any questions you have because I'll be hanging out for at least 10, 20 minutes, or really as long as if there's questions. So yeah. And if anyone's watching this like more advanced, and they're just like, oh wow, this is really slow, feel free to ask questions as well that are really advanced or tricky, and I can get into that as well. Because I don't mind this Q&A section doesn't follow super smoothly from the rest of the lesson. It really is an open Q&A to ask me whatever. I mean, ZBrush related. Okay, so Michael did correct saying that it's a subtool. So yes, removing a section from clothing subtools, you would go to delete. Deleting is permanent, just letting you know. Yeah, but thanks everyone that's tuning in. This is always really fun for me. Because prior to this, I did a few tutorial videos on YouTube, and so I have no problem talking to a camera and stuff. That's like a person, or that's fine for me. But it's a lot more fun when there's actual people listening. And everyone's listening in the future, I do appreciate you as well. I really do. Because I know a lot of you guys are international, and it's like 6 a.m. there, which is ridiculous. So I wouldn't expect you to tune in. Actually, I'm gonna look over my plan. Because the objective is I want you guys to be able to start a model. I think I went a little farther than I intended to as far as like how to extract clothes and kind of stuff, but that's fine. Yeah, base mesh, how to import, light overview of Dynamesh with examples. Yeah, beginning brushes, and what to practice. Sweet. So Michael mentioned, so that doesn't delete the subtool, just the masked area. Let's see. I feel like I'm not totally grasping your question, so I'm going to just spit information at you for a moment. It will delete the subtool. I just didn't do it because I thought we were to delete her pants, but I can do that just to be extra clear. So her pants are selected right now. I can tell because they're in that lighter peach color. I gotta delete and then say okay. It will delete it permanently. So it is now gone. I hope that was a little more clear. I'm gonna read through your question one more time. Yeah, so it does delete the subtool, not just the unmasked area. You might be confused between subtools and tools. So tools up here, tools are weird, even though I haven't messed with them a whole lot. Essentially, they're just different objects that are available up there. That was weirded me out because I'd accidentally click on the cylinder and think I lost my model. This is really helpful if I wanted to like merge visible, for example. So I'd have her in all of her separate pieces on one of the tools, and then if I merge visible, I'd have another tool here with just her, everything merged together, which is really convenient. And by merge, I mean all the subtools here become one tool. I feel like I'm saying tool a lot, so if I lost you there, it's okay. Feel free to ask questions, I can clarify. Since I'm asking questions, Honest Abe question. Alright, Honest Abe says, I'm really excited to see you add wings or other drastic anatomy changes like horns and such. I guess this isn't a question though. I can show you how to do it since I'm just kind of hanging out right now. So for horns, I'm usually pretty lazy, efficient. And what I do is I go to the brush palette and chisel creature because I can take a cylinder, I can append it to her head and kind of like stretch it out and whatever, or I can just do chisel creature, grab a horn shape, and just be like, okay, cool. Now I have something there that's easier to work from because the mesh is already manipulated. Those were some ugly horns. I actually, oh, that's terrible. Like bunny ears. Anyway, I actually added a horn brush. There it is. Specifically for this. And I like it a lot because the horn shapes look better, but they mask. So since they're automatically selected, I can then go through with the 3D Gizmo. I feel like it's just a goofy name. I don't know, Gizmo I just can't take seriously. Anyway. And then I can manipulate these shapes by themselves, which is really awesome. I just have a lot of control over them. And if I want them to be their own object, not part of the body, I can go to split and then split mask points. And so now you can see that the horns are their own piece up here. So if I decide to move them again later, I can. And then since you just mentioned wings as well, I am pretty sure I have wings somewhere. I'm gonna hope I do. But I would import those. So I've made wings before in the past I really liked, so I just grabbed those again. I have them in assets, I think. Oh, I don't. Where are they? Yeah, I didn't save them conveniently. Yeah, that's what I do. So essentially what I would do is I would go to an older model. One of these little subtools would say wings, and then I'd go to tool and export. And then I could import it into another file. But as far as just like making wings in general, I usually just take a line and then stretch it all down. That's like my really quick 2-second tutorial on that. Another question. So John asked, can you show how you would take a sphere and use a move tool shape into a head shape? Totally. I pretty much never do this because I just like using heads. You have to have a really good understanding of what a skull looks like to make a good head. It's the best thing I could say. But I will still show you. Going to move, going to append, sphere. All right, clicking on W, bring it through to Gizmo. Dragging this down so it's much smaller. I'm just gonna sculpt her head shape above the head. All right, so there's a lot of different ways to do this efficiently. If I was trying to do this, like if I could never import a base mesh and I had it from scratch every single time, I'd probably get much better at it, and I would mask an area off like this, and then I would take the jaw out like that. That is not what you asked. You asked for the move brush, so I'll show you that. All right, I already have move selected. All right, cool. So I would pull this down for the chin shape. Smoothing out the sides a little bit. Moving the chin forward, up, because we have a kind of like an egg shape, that's the best way to put it. Pulling it back because that's where our brain would sit. This is where the neck would be. And then there would be a nose here, so I'm just gonna pull that out. So as you can tell, I'm doing a lot of this from the profile, or not profile, silhouette, side silhouette. This is a little too bulbous in sphere, so I need to push this up. Again, there would be a neck here. Oh, am I not doing this in symmetry? Oh, I didn't do this in symmetry, so it looks super dumb. I'm sorry about that. But this should be in symmetry. I'm gonna do this really, really quickly. All right, holding X, yeah, that's fine. X for symmetry, squish, pulling that straight down. All right, there we go. Just general shape really quick one more time. That's essentially what I would do. The nose looks really goofy because I haven't defined the shape at all. So I'd go to clay buildup. Look like a blobfish. Blocking the nose, blocking the eyes, scribble, scribble. You get the general idea. That with a much smaller brush and a lot finer movements. But there is your monster. So essentially it'd be working from profile view and back and forth. I'd actually recommend for your sculpt ahead to have the neck as well already done. So having a sphere and already appending a cylinder under it. Because you could tell I was already having, it was kind of awkward to figure out where the jawline was gonna be and how it was gonna fit. Because we don't usually see heads without necks. They come pretty naturally as a package deal. So that'll help you out a lot. Hope that answered your question. And if any of you guys, I think a good part of that question, I'm not sure if I emphasized well here, is like how the move brush works. So the angle you're looking at it is really important to how the move brush works. So that's why I was working from the silhouette like side view and then from the front. So two different sides, because I try to use the move brush like perpendicular from where I want it. So if I wanted to extract a nose, you can't pull straight into the camera. So I turn my head sideways and pull straight out that way with my brush. Okay, cool. He said that's what I wanted to see, how big the brush you use to block it out and how smooth you worked. Perfect. I felt bad because it looks super dumb. I have like the artist crisis where it's like, oh gosh, I look incompetent. It's like, go figure, I need to do a great head in like 20 seconds, but whatever. Feel free to ask more questions. I'm having fun. Where did my boyfriend go? Where'd he? Oh, his headphones. He's doing video editing on the couch. I was gonna say, I'm like, where's one person? Kat mentioned that the book I recommended, Anatomy for Sculptors, is super, super cool. And yeah, it starts from how the skull is shaped and then for the head. And she has like a really good resource, Anatomy for Sculptors and DeviantArt. That is super, super helpful as well. Okay, Honest Abe says, can you give me a quick rundown of the spacebar menu? I sure can. All right. So the spacebar menu is essentially a collection of everything at the top here, but reorganized to look less dumb. This upper menu up here just has so much information you don't really need. That's why in my custom UI, I just delete all of it pretty much. But here's what you need to know. The color over here is great for poly painting because you can quickly grab different colors and it will block in the color on your entire model, which is super helpful. I don't poly paint because I'm bad with colors. That's why I'm a 3D sculptor and not like a painter. I tried painting for a long time and I'm really untalented at it. It's fun though. Anyway, up here is going to show what your tool that is selected. I pretty much never use this. I try not to click on it because when I do, I always grab like a cylinder and I panic like I deleted my model. Clay buildup, so this is whatever brush you have selected, what alpha you selected, the brush type. Okay, this is important actually. So if you click on this, you'll notice there's dots, drag rectangle, spray. It's like, what does this mean? You're pretty much always going to have dots selected. This is explaining how the brush is working. So if I drag this line, what's actually how ZBrush is seeing it is throwing down a little like circle every single dot, so spaced apart. That was a terrible sentence. Okay, I'm gonna try it again. So what it's doing is it is putting marking a dot for where it wants the brush to be active. These dots are really close together. That's how it's thinking of it essentially. So you can get really smooth lines like that. Now you can do something like, let me put an alpha on here. Drag rectangle. So what's going to do is when I click on the mesh, it's going to say that brush is active, and it will only show anything when I start dragging. So again, click down, hold down, and then start dragging off. So I grabbed a scale alpha so you can actually see it work, because if I do clay buildup, you'll just see a very small like blob, and it'll be really unclear. So this is with drag rectangle. So as you can see, that was a bad space to do that. There's like that scale texture starting to pop up. It's not doing a great job because it's on a really rounded surface, but you can get the idea of how it's going to work. So again, tool, what your brush is, what your alpha is. I have that snake scale texture, so that's why it's doing that. What your brush type is, your matte cap, and texture. I don't use texture because I don't paint my models. And then draw size, focal shift. I go through here constantly because draw size is how big the brush is, and then focal shift is the drop off. If you don't know what that means, let me know, I'll explain it. I'm just going to move on for right now just because it takes a little bit of time to explain that. And if you already know it, you'll be like, I know. Z intensity is how strong the brush is, and these are all your different your modes, my bad. So I'm in draw mode right now. You pretty much are always in draw mode, or you'll be in move mode, which is where the 3D gizmo is. I use the hotkeys for this, Q and W. Q for draw mode, W for move mode. Scale and rotate I never use because they're part of the 3D gizmo, this being scale, this being rotate. So I don't know whether they're there, honestly. The rest of this, you're probably not going to deal with very much. This is like moving your model around, zooming on your model. I just pin them about here on the side of the screen and drag them there. All of these buttons here also have to do with polypaint. That's why it's like RGB channels, mRGB channels, that kind of stuff. Z add and Z sub is saying whether the brush is adding or subtracting. I just leave it on Z add, keep it real simple. I hope that answered your question. This is all more polypaint stuff. So yeah, actually I use a lot of stuff, part of this. I just use it for my draw size and switching out my alpha. Even my brushes, I don't grab from here. I usually just pick from the brush palette, or I dock them at the bottom of my custom UI. Hope that answered your question. If not, ask again. All right, more comments. John says, can you show again how to put your favorite brushes on the bottom of the UI? The reason I kind of sigh is because I did it a long time ago, and I'm probably going to stumble through this, but I will try to be as helpful as possible. So, this is what I think I did. I actually picked a UI up here, not that, this one, that I liked generally, because this UI is somewhat close to what I like, and then I'd click down here, and I would click what brush I want. So now I want like clay buildup. So now it says clay buildup. So I selected all the different brushes that I wanted. Now to keep going on this, to make your UI actually stay, you go to Preferences, Config, Enable Customize. So this will allow me to customize the UIs on my screen right now. There we go. And it's kind of funky. So the way you grab blocks, so whether it's a brush or any of these boxes up here or any elements on the screen, you hold Control and Alt, and then you click on them and you can drag them around. If you want to get rid of them, you do Control Alt and just drag them onto the canvas and they just disappear into nothingness. So I can get rid of all of these if I wanted to. And the reason why I was saying it's hard to dock your own brushes is because ZBrush gets like dumb about it. I bring up my brush palette like this and then hold Control Alt, and I'm able to drag brushes off sometimes. Usually it doesn't like it, so I'll go to brush up here and do it from there. I'm so glad I remembered that this wasn't painful. I was hoping I'd be helpful. Anyway, that's how you do it. So Control Alt and you drag stuff around. It's kind of goofy. So that's why I like going to UI that I like and then modifying that instead of doing it all from scratch. And then once you're done customizing your UI, you click off of Enable Customize and then Store Config. I'm not gonna click on it because I don't like the configuration at all, but that will keep it. You can do Save UI and then so you can load it in later, but if you store it, it will keep it, so that's what you get every time you boot up ZBrush. And if you decide that you don't like your custom UI, you can do Restore Standard UI and it will fix everything. And it'll be back to this really ugly default ZBrush one. I think it's ugly. I try to keep it as blank as possible. Like all these buttons down here like baffle me. I don't know why there's so many. You only need like 3. But if you like all of them, more power to you. Oh, sweet. I'm always worried I'm giving a lengthy answer or something that like other people were waiting, but there's not. Sweet. These are really good questions, guys. Rock on. And again, learning is not super fun and exciting, so go you guys for learning something new in your own free time. I know a lot of you guys work normal 40, 50 hour work weeks, so I really respect that. I'd be very tired. The lesson for next week, I am planning to pretty much build off of this a little bit more in detail. So essentially, it's going to be following up on how to block out a character and a little more explanation on subtools, how to reorder them, duplicating, deforming them, a lot of masking tricks. There's so much you can do with masking. It's really, really cool. Because essentially all you're doing is just selecting an area. So once you have one area selected, you can inflate it, you can sharpen, bevel, add creases, all kinds of cool stuff. ZBrush is cool. Sweet, there's been about 20 minutes of questions, which I'm really glad. I think you guys will probably learn the most in the Q&A. What I'm hoping to do in the lessons is, when you're first learning, you don't even know what to ask. So I'm hoping the lessons will be like, oh, what is she doing? You know what I mean? So I like to show enough where it's not overwhelming, but then enough to give you guys something to ask questions about. And yeah, feel free to post stuff in the work in progress, and that goes for any of you guys, no matter your skill level. It's really exciting to see. I know it's natural to be shy, but if anyone's mean to you, I will get rid of them. Simple as that. So be nice to each other. Honestly, everyone's been so respectful and kind to each other, and I really appreciate it. I feel super lucky that you guys are just naturally nice to each other. I've had like 2 people get upset with each other, and that's because they misread each other's comments. But then they chilled out, so that was cool. It looks like the connection for this is a lot better. Hopefully there wasn't any like clipping throughout the video. I'll watch it again later to make sure this was all smooth. I know the audio sounds better because I have headphones in and I'm listening to myself. So there's that. I'll probably log off in about 5 minutes if there's no other questions, but if not, thank you guys so much for joining. I love hanging out with you guys and teaching you ZBrush. And mostly complaining about the UI. It's so weird for me to work in this UI. It doesn't feel like home. It feels like a different program. But I forgot there's so many cool colors. If you guys want some useless information about colors and UI, because I'm talking about it, you go to Preferences. Where is it? It's like eye colors. There are eye colors, and this is all of the colors on all of ZBrush. So essentially, you can change anything on here to whatever color you want. So all of these orange boxes up here correspond to all of these orange boxes here. I had this really, really awesome UI that was like blue and steel gray or whatever, and I accidentally deleted it. And I haven't fixed it since. So, whatever. Honest Abe mentions he could never listen to himself. You know, it's not my favorite thing to do, but it prevents me from mumbling. Because I forget that I'm like talking to people sometimes because I'm not physically seeing you guys, and I'll start doing stuff like that, which is not helpful. Kat mentioned this stream was super smooth. Yay, I'm really glad. Apparently 3,000 was the magic number, not 4,000, which is higher, so it should work better. 3,000. Whatever. I'm glad it worked. I had a lot of fun live streaming the Bat Humanoid progress as well. So I'm doing a lot more live streams. I mentioned I'd do like 2 to 3 a week. I probably gonna do it like every day. So that's why I made the live stream channel in the Discord, so I don't at everyone every single time and constantly notify you guys. You can look at the live stream channel if you want to see if I'm doing it, and if you don't want to, you don't have to look at it. I'm hoping that was a good solution to it. Let's see. Honest Abe mentions also super smooth, and the camera has autofocus on, but super minor. Yeah, this camera tries to follow my right eye specifically, and if I move, it gets upset. So that would be why, but still a good point. Thank you for the feedback. The survey I put out, I didn't get any mean responses. I had like one person just being like, I like everything so far. So I'm not sure if you guys are shy, but the survey is actually anonymous. So I promise you can be like, this and this and this sucks. Let me know. I'm adult. I'll be fine. Because I want this to be as good as possible. I know the lessons can feel a little disorganized sometimes because I kind of jump around. It's partly because I don't want to put too much information. The exact same reason why there is a better way to do clothes than this. It's extracting zero thickness and doing polygroups, but I just recently started looking into that. And when I was just trying to sculpt and have fun, I wouldn't have appreciated learning that. I remember seeing videos like that and it was too much for me. So I'm trying to find a good balance for you guys. Let's see. Michael says, I hate asking this question again, but I think I'm not giving the right details. That's okay. Feel free to ask. I interpreted it like a subtool question and deleting. Do you mean deleting part of the mesh? Because I can explain that too. I'm going to read your comment again to make sure. How do you remove a section from clothing subtool? I think you mean deleting a section of clothing. So I'm just going to do it, and hopefully that's helpful. All right, so if I wanted to like remove the cuffs, for example, I could do that. I could split it into another piece like this, and I could delete that. And there you go. You'll notice that it's hollow because it got rid of the mesh infill. So if I just go to Dynamesh, there we go, better resolution, it'll fill it back in. There's also clip brushes you can do as well, which, where are my clip brush? Trim rectangle. Trim brushes are kind of weird. You have to do Control and Shift, and that's just how they work. So Control Shift, and then trim. It does not do it in symmetry. I don't know why. It's dumb. So I do mask and deleting, but trim brushes are not in symmetry. So I'm right now. Michael said yes. Yay. I'm glad that was helpful. But you did have a follow-up question or comment. Is there a way to remove something from a subtool, like if you mask an area and then use Boolean? Oh yeah, cool. I'm really glad I answered that. Yeah, I'm sorry that wasn't clicking for me the first time. Oh well. I'm glad that you weren't too shy to ask again. And yeah, guys, if I'm not answering your question, like, you're paying for this, and I like being here, so just keep asking. I will eventually answer your question, and you will get lots of good information on the way. That's the best way I'd say to remove something from a subtool, is by masking and splitting and deleting. Again, trim is great, but it is not in symmetry, which is annoying. Yay, I'm glad that was it. I'm so excited, like, probably like a month or 2 months from now. No, probably a month from now. I'm gonna like badger you guys and put stuff in the work in progress because I want to see what you're doing. I'm excited. I know you guys are all super busy, so you probably work on this like a few times a week, but still, I want to see all your blob people. It makes me happy. All right, it is 6:55. I'm gonna hang out until 7. If there's more questions, I will answer them quickly. But it's been like an hour and I'm already hungry again because I eat constantly. So, yeah, it's like the third dinner time for me. tomorrow I have to go to a wedding, but on Monday I'll probably be live sculpting or live streaming the ASMR. I'm saying that. ASMR Bard. So the Bard with giant awesome wings. I'm super excited for it. Honestly, I mentioned someone else posted a blob post the other day, and he's very happy to see he wasn't the only one making blob faces. Exactly. We can all suck together. It's just, everyone starts off the same. Like, I'm teaching a couple of friends that are like local to me that I see in person, ZBrush as well, and they both send me pictures constantly, and they're all like shyer about it. And yeah, it looks the same. We all start from the same. I really wish I kept my early models so I could show you guys. I only have early models once I put like 10, 20 hours in, so they already look okay-ish. I promise they sucked. If you asked me to sculpt a good face right now from a sphere, like I did a good one, it'd probably suck too. So yeah. Michael mentions, is there a way to repeat an action? Like if you create a tassel, you want to repeat the next step around the mesh? Yes, that is such a good question. So that is what I was talking about when it came to creating correct clothing. I'm going to do it really quick. I'm going to have a whole video series about advanced masking and clothing, but this is just touching on that. It's a little complicated, but I'm going to run through it, but don't be overwhelmed if it's too much for you. This is a little more advanced. All right, so this is how we're going to do it. Masking this off. Going to extract. Taking my thickness to 0. And it's going to look really weird like that. That's good. That's what I want. Then I'm going to go to stroke. Something under, what is it under stroke? There we go. Stroke, curve, functions, frame, mesh. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's now this little like gray line all the way around. I'm going to do solo mode so you guys can see that this is just like a hollow piece of nothingness pretty much, which is why I didn't teach it earlier, because it's not 3D printable. All right, and then now I can just kind of pick whatever I want to put around that. I'm a big fan of the Chisel Creature brush, but that's not what I wanted. Scales, there we go. I used this technique for doing my Fox Samurai. I'm gonna turn off symmetry, and now that I have this brush active, this won't work for every brush. This is working for this one specifically because it's like a inserting a mesh. If that makes sense. It's inserting an object. It's not just like a brush action. It's a scale or a tassel or something like that. And if I tap on it, it has now put those scales all the way around the mesh, looking super fancy and super nice. I found this out recently and like lost my marble over it because it's so freaking cool. Oops, I clicked extract again. I didn't mean to do that. Don't do anything. No, there we go. All right, now that I have this, I can hit on split to have the trim be a separate piece. It helps things be more organized. But the issue is now that I have this model that's having thickness, in order to fix that, you need to go into edge loops, which is a whole other thing. And I'm not gonna get into that because it's getting a little too much. But if you wanted to look into it yourself, it's under geometry, I think. Yes, an edge loop. So yes, that's like 10-minute explanation. So I won't dive too deep into that. But now you know that you can repeat actions like that. Yeah, he said that's so rad, right? Isn't that so cool? Oh my god, though I saw that recently, it like my models immediately got better. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll be jumping into this kind of stuff pretty soon, honestly. This beginner series here is gonna be a lot of like, here's ZBrush UI, here is the intro. But eventually, like I'll show you guys what I have to show you, and it'll be really specific stuff on like how to add trim, how to make your own brushes, how to make your own alphas, all that kind of stuff. But eventually, I'll definitely have repeating content, is the best way to put it. But under different wrappers of like I'm making a human or I'm making a creature of some sort. So yeah. Sweet, it took us like pretty much exactly 7. Dope. And plus, I have a lot to learn in ZBrush as well. So I'm having fun just staying ahead of you guys. So I always have something to teach you guys. That's the hope anyway. All right, it's officially 7. So I think I'm gonna sign off. This was super awesome. You guys are the best. I know I say that constantly, but I really mean it. All right. I'm going to sign off then. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next week. Really quick though, feel free, if there's something you want to learn next week for sure, to type it in the chat, and I will get to that. If the chat disappears, type it in the Discord, because I'm going to end the stream. I don't know if I get to the chat, probably. Discord. Tell me in Discord what you want to learn next week. I have a lesson plan, but I'll incorporate it. Alright, bye guys.